Click it. I'm ashamed. I meant to say.
Start that over.
No, I don't. No, I will hold it. I hold myself up to the same. I hold us up to the same standards that this show was established upon when we were at WOCR 89.1 The One. Shout out, go comments. I hold us up to the same standards we had for that show. Now I can say fuck whenever I want, but regardless, once it's on air, and I can't take it back. So, clickety clack, we are back. I'm Mr. Ryan. I'm a fucking schmo.
And I'm Cairo, and I'm also a schmo.
And welcome to the Two Schmoes Show, ladies and gentlemen. We've been gone for a little bit, but surprisingly, nothing's been fucking happening. So I see that as a win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nothing important happened in the last few weeks. I don't have 12 tabs open right now.
Nothing important happened. Yeah. You know,
that doesn't count the Rotten Tomatoes tabs.
Mitch didn't die, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, because I just realized I don't have anything for this. I'm gonna open up a new tab here. I'm gonna type Iran war. I'm gonna hit enter, and we'll come back to that later, and we'll see what that looks like.
Oh God. Iran war enter. I
know it's not good. I've been following enough to know that it's not good, but
I mean, when has it been good? I ask you that. When has it been good?
When did the Iran war start? February 27th, 2026. It was all right then.
Wait, it was back in February?
Yeah, the first day was February 28th. Which is very convenient because then you get to count the whole month of March when you say how many months it's been.
I'm sorry, I'm just like freaking out because it feels like it's been shorter than that. Like we've been in this.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Time loop. This endless loop of markets close, time to bomb, markets open. We've got a new Strait of Hormuz deal going on, and it never ends.
Yeah, I do think we are at that end.
You think so?
The system has broken down this week. I know that for a fact. Because at the start of this week, and it hasn't really shown in the markets too much because they've not wanted it to be super publicized, but at the start of this week, the Iran war basically went hot again. We have U.S. strikes into Iran. Iran, again, striking very openly ships that they have not deemed allowed to transit the strait. And for all intents, the strait is back to being closed right now. The big news that I heard today was that as part of these retaliations and the back and forth, Iran struck a U.S. base or some sort of U.S. asset in Jordan and killed another 2 U.S. service members. There were 4 others who were injured and 1 who was missing. So we're very hot with this again. Like, as hot as there are new U.S. soldiers who have died, and the U.S. is already retaliating for those deaths. So, not good.
Not good at all. Oh, well. How many more months till midterms? 4?
Yeah. Yep. 3.5.
3.5?
The other side of it that I think is a really clear indicator that we're back to being hot again is that sounds bad, that we're back to having a hot war again is the nature of the strikes that the U.S. has been doing. Up to now, there's been a handful of particularly abhorrent strikes that have been carried out. Obviously, the very first one on the girls' school, disgusting. Yep. There was another where the U.S. very proudly and openly destroyed a major bridge, which was pretty bad, with the bigger part of that being that they struck that location again after emergency services responded to the scene, which was very, very bad. they've escalated to the point now where they are openly and deliberately targeting infrastructure that is meant to support civilians. Water treatment plants, power generation plants, bridges, these kinds of targets that are technically allowed because they're able to be designated as dual-use targets. They're used by the civilians and the military, and because of that, they're technically a military target. But from what I've been understanding, these are predominantly used by civilians, and they are intentionally being struck to inflict pain on the civilian population of Iran to further the leverage in the region.
We're the bad guys.
It sure feels like it. Apart from that, I think another reason that we can see that this is escalating in a way that it hasn't before is some of the action that we've started to see in Congress. In particular, we had the measure that was voted on this week that was proposed by Representative House, I believe, member Massey, that ended up pulling over 100 Democrats onto it, that was an explicit amendment to try and distance the United States from Israel politically. Mm-hmm. In our lifetimes, I think that's pretty unprecedented.
Honestly, I was kind of freaking out when that happened. Like,
yeah.
I just want to preface this, right? I remember growing up and all I would ever hear was our greatest ally is Israel. And I never fully understood that because quite frankly, what do we get from them? I'm just curious. Like, I really want to know.
So the conventional argument has been, I mean, obviously there's soft power stuff, right? It gives a very strong foothold in the region.
Yep.
I think the biggest thing is that it's able to be used as a political tool. You get to portray yourself as the historical good guys. And for a long time, I think there's probably a good argument that that was true. In the wake of World War II, there was broad public sentiment internationally to support international Jewish populations, and supporting Israel was the most obvious and direct way of doing that.
Yes.
As we've gotten further from that, it's definitely gotten muddled.
I will say this. I read the story of like how Israel kind of started, right? And I think there was a lot of goodwill at the beginning, right?
Yes.
I think it kind of, I don't know. I've been trying to read more about the Judaism and Hebrew stuff. I've been interested in Abrahamic religion, so I've been reading a lot of stuff about that recently. Mm-hmm. And the state of Israel always seemed like the natural conclusion to the Jewish identity, you know? And then it got messy real fucking fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I understand why Jewish people are very protective of Israel, the state. That being said, like, holy fuck.
I do think it's been really fascinating to see, as a person who grew up in a not deeply religious house, but very actively religious, if that's a distinction that makes sense. Like,
yeah, there is. Yeah.
We went to church, we said grace before dinner, but it wasn't like, don't say the Lord's name in vain, don't swear, don't do this, don't do that, follow the Bible all the time. That wasn't a part of it. It was a very, I don't want to say performative religion, but kind of performative in a way. I grew up in that tradition, and I've seen how not just our church, but the collective, broad, Big C church has lost its sway in the United States, at least. Yeah. And I can imagine a very similar thing happening with Judaism, where you don't necessarily have less people who self-identify as religious, but that they don't feel like they need a centralized authority to be the one to say whether or not they are religious. And as that changes, a place like Israel loses its soft power.
Yeah.
We've seen that so much with the Vatican, right?
Yeah. I mean, look at the excommunication that happened.
Oh God, I don't even have a tab for that.
Yeah, that was kind of really fucking fast, and then it died out real fucking fast as well.
Yeah, it turns out when you're a Catholic sect and you get cut off from the Catholic Church, you lose all your money and you kind of die, and then nobody cares about you.
Do you think that's why, like, Benji, Mr. Netanyahu himself, turned to such aggressive military action to reestablish that authority and power in a world that becomes more and more secular by the day?
Maybe to an extent. The thing with Netanyahu is that this is the pretty much exact playbook he's been running for a very long time. Yeah. He gets to a spot politically where his power starts to wane, and the way that he recovers that power is by using some sort of military action to find a bad guy, to unite the country politically around him. And there's a lot of people who don't like Israel, legitimately. So it's been pretty easy for him to run that playbook back and forth by using military power to go after their both perceived and very real enemies for a very long time. And I could see the escalation being an extension of that, but I don't think it is one related to global religious power as much as more local, national political capital.
I see where you're coming from.
Talking about national, we've had some. It's been a fascinating couple of weeks, hasn't it?
Yeah.
We had a senator die, and it wasn't the one anyone expected. We knew back in June that Mitch McConnell had some sort of medical problem. We didn't know what. We knew he had been hospitalized, taken by an ambulance, and he had not left the hospital. On, what day was that? June, I think it was the same day, or was it the day after? Let me double check that. What day did Lindsey Graham die? It was the day after, I think. Lindsey Graham, spoilers, fucking died. Lindsey Graham died on July 11th. Really out of nowhere. Everybody had been kind of like watching the news, side-eyeing it, waiting to see what happened to McConnell.
Yeah.
And then everybody hears Senator died, and it's like, great, pop the champagne. Lindsey Graham. What? Apparently from DC Medical Examiner had an aortic dissection caused by arteriosclerotic cardiovascular disease. I've looked into this a little bit because I was curious as to like what happened that caused this to be so sudden, and the suddenness of it is, I think, a little bit blown out of proportion. It was not expected. He was not like in the hospital recently, but his health hasn't been great. He has arteriosclerotic cardiovascular disease. That's the hardening of the walls of his veins, usually because of lifestyle, stress, that kind of stuff. A lot of stress for that guy, I'll tell you that. So the walls of his veins and aortas were hardening. One of them burst, and he bled out and died internally very, very fast as a result.
Jesus.
So, yeah. I have actually seen some really fascinating, not to get too graphic here, but some mixed reports from various medical professionals as to whether or not this was actually a painful way to die.
It sounds painful.
The most compelling answer that I've seen so far is that, very briefly, it would probably be excruciating, but it would be extremely brief because of the nature of how severe it was. So,
still, I mean,
not good. Not good. The day after, Mitch McConnell's office, I guess it would be, released a public statement clarifying the senator's status, that he had a fall in June, that he was hospitalized for that fall, but that there were no broken bones, that there was no concussion, and that he was recovering in the hospital. was in part spurred from both Graham's death, raised a lot of questions that needed to be answered, but also Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, a Democrat, was beginning to press very seriously and was on the verge of starting to file, I believe, legal action to publicly clarify what the status of McConnell's health was, because on August 3rd, I believe it is, there is a cutoff for whether or not the Senate seat that McConnell has will be filled prior to the midterms or after. So if McConnell vacates his Senate seat for any reason prior to August 3rd, there is a special election, and that seat is filled by that special election until January 6th. I believe it is, when the new Senate is seated. If it's after August 3rd, the election is instead held at the midterms in November, and that seat remains empty until that midterm election is completed. That's a major distinction. The Senate is extremely tight right now. 1 or 2 votes in either direction is a big deal. And if Beshear gets to be the one who says, I'm calling it right now, we're doing something about this, as a Democratic governor, he carries a lot of sway in how that election can be carried out. Whether it's an actual special election, which it probably would be, it could be a temporary appointment as well. Regardless, the Republicans having 1 fewer seat in the Senate could be very problematic. They still have J.D. Vance there. It's not going to be make or break, but if you can force Vance to be in the Senate in person, to be that deciding vote on more issues, that pulls him away from things that he would probably be better served politically doing, like going on talk shows or whatever the hell it is his job is actually supposed to be. Not finding out what's going on with aliens seems to be his current MO.
What?
Did you see the Joe Rogan thing?
No, I don't watch Joe Rogan
I don't
anymore.
either, but the clip was going around. It was very funny. He has been, this is Vance, has been talking about how nobody in government is more interested in figuring out what's going on with the alien shit than him. And a couple of months ago, we had another interview where he basically reiterated exactly that. He's the most interested person in the government, but he's just so busy that he doesn't have the time to figure out one of the world's greatest mysteries. Also, he at that time gave the "I think aliens are actually demons" thing.
Oh, that was him?
That was our vice president. Yes.
Jesus Christ.
So, anyways, the other one, but yes. Anyways, he went on Joe Rogan this week. He was asked the alien question because it's Joe Rogan, of course. Joe Rogan likes alien stuff. He wants to know what's going on with the alien stuff, and he's got the goddamn vice president right there to ask about the alien stuff. And Vance touted out the same, so busy, can't do it, except he added on to it a complete acknowledgement that he has been saying exactly that for a year and a half. And he has gotten no closer to actually figuring it out. It's like the same mindset that our vice president has about figuring out the actual truth about aliens that a millennial has about like installing a new mirror, where it's like, I'd love to do it, but I need a day or two to measure everything and to buy it and to get it home from the store. And then I actually have to hang it. And it's just going to take, 5 or 6 hours. And it's not that bad. The broken mirror's fine for now. I'll take care of it when I have the time. He's treating it like any other kind of chore because he's just too busy going on Joe Rogan's podcast or The View to actually, supposedly do his job.
Can I give my 2 cents on something? Genuinely, I think JD is not going to run in 2028. I think he's going to try just becoming an influencer like Charlie Kirk.
I could see that. I think that I would add on to that is almost certainly his fallback plan.
Yeah.
I think he's going to try, and he's going to get slaughtered in the primaries because he's deeply unpopular and a coward, and people know that.
I think he is prepping his career really hard right now for one of 2 options, and it ain't president.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what a coincidence that he happened to take over basically entirely the Charlie Kirk show.
Yeah, no, exactly it, too.
No.
Oh, god
In
damn.
some other influencer kind of stuff, there's not a whole lot to say on this yet because we don't know a whole lot yet. But U.S. Marshals in Florida have arrested Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate, Andrew Tate's brother, on charges of seemingly related to indecent images of a child and extreme pornography and presumably some amount of sexual trafficking. The usual shit for an absolute piece of trash like Andrew Tate. It also seems that it is the UK bringing these charges and that the US Marshals are involved because Tate is being extradited to the UK, which is a fascinating development because Tate was already being charged for these almost exact crimes in his home country of Hungary? Romania. Romanian authorities had already gone after him for almost this exact stuff, and he fled Romania into the United States to evade those charges, and they hadn't extradited him yet, even though there had been requests. So it is a very major development that at some level in the White House, they've decided that Tate is not worth the energy to keep preventing this, and they are getting rid of him. I don't think it's a coincidence as well that this is at the same time that the Senate, this is Senate? Congress, we'll just say Congress, is pushing for an Epstein Transparency Act Part 2 to explicitly release the rest of the Epstein files with explicit punishments if those are not done.
I think it's been a really shitty time to be one of these shitheads. You're in power and you still can't get anything done.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing, honestly.
Notably, Tate being extradited to the UK means that presidential pardons are off the table.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing because this would mean a whole lot of, I would read it as Trump extorting him for pardon bribes if this was purely happening within the United States. But the Marshals working with the UK government to do this is a change in behavior, and frankly a good one. It should have happened a long time ago, but I hope that at some level of the government the writing is on the wall and they're going to do shit that people want to have done, if for no other reason than they want to be reelected at some point.
It's amazing. I'm kind of impressed.
It's about time.
Yeah, no, I think it's been very frustrating this last like year and a half because like once Donnie came back to office, there was some like really hard questions about like what is the US right now, and like are we just a yes man society to like a fascist overlord because like despite everything he somehow got reelected, or do we actually do shit? And I don't know, it's just interesting. It only took just until midterms and people's meals were on the line, not like actual people, you know, your local congressman, but it is what it is.
I think that's as good of a springboard to talk about Trump's Thursday address.
Oh, hell yes, it is.
The rigged elections one. That's the best way that I think I can put it. Trump publicized, I believe on Tuesday, that they were going to do a public address Thursday night with the expressed purpose of it being to talk about election fraud. Mm-hmm. As it happens, more specifically, they were talking about how foreign countries have influenced the United States' recent elections, and as part of that, released a number of documents corroborating some of those claims. Unfortunately for them, once people started to read those documents, it became very obvious that they hadn't, because in not so many words, they said that Russia influenced the elections greatly, probably to Trump's benefit, and that China, while having the potential to influence our elections, almost certainly did not, because the benefits that they could get out of it wouldn't be worth losing the international relations that they currently have access to, because it would inevitably come out. So Trump, being our China president, looks like a big idiot right now for putting this out there at all and trying to make a big deal out of it.
Okay, you're right. I will say this though, not his target demographic. his target audience.
Oh, absolutely. They're not going to read these things.
Yeah. I will say this, he's gotten so fucking sloppy with his lies lately. It's very much just trying to keep the sheep in the flock more than it is actually trying to get new sheep in the flock.
I would like to shout out, where did that one go? One of his recent lies about the CHIPS Act. Quote from our president on the CHIPS Act: if you weren't transgender, you didn't qualify. So they'd get the money, they'd look all over for transgender people to run the company. Just very obviously dumb and wrong and a lie. But, you know, it's kind of funny just how obviously dumb it is.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of really funny, talented transgender artists making jokes about this, drawing like their trans characters with like a soldering iron at a table and being like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, you know, just making microchips like all trans people do.
Oh, yeah. It's like your superpowers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can all do that. That comes with the estrogen.
I was about to say, once you start HRT, is that like your unlocks your secret power?
Mm-hmm.
Once you are in that transitioning period, like you're, I'm just gonna stop. Joke stopped being funny 5 seconds ago.
Anyway, it's been a very dumb time in U.S. politics, and while you're right that Trump is absolutely playing to his base, it is notable that his base is including less and less and less independent voters as time goes on because of, I think, things like this. People don't see all of this, but they don't have to see much of it to go, what? And write him off entirely.
You know, Donnie had a good like thing going on by implanting himself as your parasocial buddy who talks it like it is, and he's lost a lot of that energy as much as he's just another talking head.
I do think it has changed as we get into the second term here, and the bribery has gone way up. In the first term, we both said this, and I still wholeheartedly believe it, that the worst thing that ever happened to Trump was that he actually got elected.
Yeah, no, like it's going to go hard in 10 years from now when there's the Donnie biopic where he wins the election, and in the last scene in the film he has to watch as like his calendar fills up with presidential shit and he can't like be free like he wants to be. Ironically, he's a prisoner of a different prison right now. Granted, it's a luxury prison. Yeah, sorry.
It's so fascinating and telling how many of the conventional responsibilities of president that he has just totally shirked through this. Yeah. He is not leading the army in the war in Iran. He's watching the war in Iran. And that is such a strong, fascinating difference in what he is actually doing as president. And it seems like his main job is to collect bribe money from people who want favors.
Really, it's one of those things where you can kind of tell he doesn't know what to do in the job, so he's just going to do whatever works for him.
I really wonder how much he actually cares about the bribes that are coming in, so much as that they are. Where he's not going to be the guy who's going through and being like, okay, who gave us the bribe money this week? Who do we have to do favors for? He's got people to do all of that very clearly, because he goes onto these talk shows and he gets directly asked about like CZ Ping, the crypto guy who got pardoned, and it's like, why did you do this? After the guy gave the Trump and the Trump organization a shitload of money. I think he's genuine. He's like, I don't know who the guy is. He doesn't care. He paid the bill, so the quid pro quo happens, and he genuinely doesn't know who that is and doesn't care who that is.
At this point, it's just about power to him. Like, if there's no point in being president if you just can't, you know, enjoy the power. And then also just trashing whatever Obama did when he was in office, even though he's had like 6 years to do that now.
Yeah.
And he still hasn't done it all. No. Peepaw gets a little tired at night.
Let's do a quick talk about ICE. There was another ICE shooting since we last met, this time in Maine. This one is also really bad. Oh, NBC. I have never seen this before. NBC has an article that is for subscribers, and I'm not giving them money because it's NBC and they can go to hell.
Fair.
Okay. 26-year-old Colombian man.
Why is it always Colombians with these fuckers?
It's not always, but the usual reasons.
Yeah, I guess.
Johan Guerrero was shot in his car in Maine, complying with ICE orders while his 3-year-old daughter was in the car.
Yep.
It is extremely disgusting and particularly inexcusable in this case, to the extent that the DOJ has issued a public statement saying that ICE will no longer be pursuing or interacting with fleeing vehicles. This is the third time that this has happened, almost verbatim, where you have a relatively recent group of ICE agents that are overworked and don't know what the fuck they're doing, and they see a person driving a car and, to be charitable, think they're driving at them, even though in every case they very obviously aren't. And their immediate response is not to get out of the way, but to shoot the person. And there's clearly a pattern now. And I have to imagine that the DOJ response to this, in their statement saying that pursuing these vehicles is ceasing, is as clear a sign of any that they have lost the public sentiment in relation to these incidences. Notable as well that the ex-wife of the ICE agent involved in the killing both publicly outed who the person was.
Jesus.
David Brulette, after her ex-husband texted her asking for sympathy, telling her to talk positively about him.
Okay, Dave, I know you're listening. I know you're a big fan of the podcast. Who the fuck do you think you are to pull a move like that? This is something.
Seriously.
This is something I will say. Nothing pisses me off than people looking for sympathy and going to your goddamn ex. No.
Yes.
Okay.
Credit to Ashley. She shut that shit down immediately.
Good. There's this thing, right? And I'm going to bring some runner wisdom to you, right? When you run, you're going to hurt yourself. It is a part of the deal. You get dopamine, but you're going to hurt afterwards. And there's this thing I like to say. I stole it from a Murakami book. Don't feel bad for yourself when you're in pain like that. Only an asshole does that. When you put yourself through that, never fucking feel bad for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
NPR has a really good article about this. Quote, ICE wife says ICE agent who killed man in Maine had racist beliefs, violent tendencies. I'm going to read an excerpt here. Scott Collins told NPR he was best friends with David Brulette in high school in Maine. Collins testified on behalf of Ashley Brulette in the divorce proceedings. David's attorneys said that Colin and David were, quote, once friends, but their relationship ended because Mr. Collins was jealous of Mr. Brulette's successful career. Quote, he had a bad tendency of going out and looking for fights, Collins said. If he saw something online that he didn't like, that somebody said that he knew, he would go out and start that fight. Collins also said that Brulette used anti-black racial slurs in high school. Ashley says she worries racism may have played a part in Guerrero's death. Quote, he displayed racism. His nickname in high school was White Boy David, if that tells you anything.
Yeah, so, that tells a lot.
Yeah, it's all really bad and really gross. And I hope people stop being completely senselessly murdered over this, now that this has gotten to the obvious conclusion, the thing that we already saw happen in January, right? So if this is what finally pushes it over the edge, so be it. But what a fucked up country to live in. Would you like a quick lightning round before we get to movies?
Yeah. Actually, I had a question for you.
Yeah, for sure.
World Cup tonight. Who's on your, who you rooting for?
This question should tell you all you need to know. It is Argentina versus Spain, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't watched a single game. I guess Spain. Argentina's like I'm a little torn on it, right? Because I can only really take the perspective of what is the good storyline, and I feel like it's in a spot where either outcome is pretty cool, where you have either Argentina, as I understand, going back-to-back years, winning it, which is cool, or you get Spain being the underdog, making it to the finals versus the reigning champion and taking them down. And both of those are pretty cool outcomes. So I hope everyone has a great time.
Fair. My glorious Brazil got kicked out, so I'm only voting for Argentina because they're closer to Brazil.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
a couple of quick things. The DOJ is trying to use. What even is this? The DOJ has put a request into the Alien Terrorist Removal Court, a court that was first made by Congress in 1996, 30 years ago, and has never seen a case. It is a very particular process because the nature of this court is that everything happening within it is highly classified and not public, to the degree where we don't even know who they are trying to charge in this court as they seek to remove this person from the country.
So who do you think it is?
I have no idea. It is fascinating though, isn't it? How interesting would it be if this turns out to be Andrew Tate?
I don't think we're lucky enough for that.
I don't either, but the nature of this is just so specific. Like, why this court that has such a high bar right now? And because the side of it that I think of, right, is that if they actually have someone who's like a legitimate Tren de Aragua, MS-13 leader, who maybe hasn't reached the bar of criminal action, but they still want to remove because of the association that they have so obviously with all of this terrorist activity, they would want to publicize that massively. And you can't do that with this court. So I genuinely don't know. But the fact that this has been activated at all for the first time is notable because it is so bizarre. So unprecedented.
It is a time when they will go for anything to make themselves look cool, and they're not doing it. So who is it?
Yes. Next piece. This was a little while ago, but Apple has sued OpenAI, accusing it of stealing company secrets. There's a really good Times article about this, if you can find a GIF link to it. Wild claims, basically, that not only was OpenAI openly poaching Apple's engineers, not a surprising thing, as part of the proving that the Apple engineers are good at their jobs, part of the interview process, they were very explicitly, allegedly, telling the Apple engineers to bring their confidential NDA work to OpenAI interviews in order to demonstrate their competency, and OpenAI just happened to keep those materials. What do you know? If that's true, slam dunk, open and shut case. What a stupid way of running a business.
I'm all for it. What are you talking about? Like, this is a good nerd fight right now.
It's certainly an interesting one. And it's another, mark in the OpenAI collapsing and being the one that actually starts the AI bubble popping. If OpenAI goes down, I think that will be the end.
I mean, they literally have AI in the name.
Debt. Yeah. They have so much debt with other companies, so many obligations to Oracle, NVIDIA, SoftBank, massive other companies waiting for their billions and billions of dollars of revenue to come from OpenAI, that if they can't deliver on that, that alone would cause these companies to massively lose valuation. Like OpenAI is almost solely the reason that NVIDIA is as big as it is. Not just because OpenAI is purchasing hardware from NVIDIA, but because the other companies that OpenAI contracts with are also purchasing hardware from NVIDIA. So NVIDIA gets to look like they have this nice distributed network of customers, when in reality, the top three are basically the same thing. Very stupid situation. But very funny.
But hear me out, right? What's going to happen to my AI chat girlfriend when this happens? When the bubble bursts?
God willing, she will die.
I'm going to take a life insurance policy.
As you legitimately, I hope that happens, that these companies collapse and that shit goes away.
It really should.
So wildly unhealthy and kind of terrifying that has, it's not normalized, but the degree that it has become normalized is still disturbing.
r/AI girlfriend. What's going on in there right now? Oh yeah, no, it's called r/my girlfriend is AI.
Nothing good, I'm sure.
4.1 followers.
I would strongly suspect a number of those are curious people trying to see what the fuck is going on.
First post, ask your AI if you could live in my world with me or have me live in your world with you, which would you rather have?
I want to say, I find almost as much as anything, so much of the AI girlfriend, AI companion shit to be so frustrating because it has co-opted the sort of zeitgeist over what science fiction has to look like that would include that. That's been such a classic science fiction trope of the AI tool gaining some amount of sentience and being the thing trying to pursue humanity, to understand what is love as a betterment of the self of this creation, this thing. And to have that so literally perverted, completely twisted around to being a product that only does that rather than something that could be explored or conceptualized with. Just fucking sucks.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to cut you off, but I'm looking at the all-time greatest post of all time on this.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fucking fascinating to see, when you give these lonely guys make a woman button, what they'll make.
Oh, isn't it just, right?
It's scary. And
mm-hmm.
Some of them are posting photos of what I presume is themselves with their AI girlfriends, right?
So sad.
Now, well, hear me out, right?
Okay.
I'm going to post one in our chat.
Okay.
There's no way this mofo looks like that. That is too hard of a chin.
There's no way.
Yeah. Now, this is just a strong break from reality. However, I do want to highlight one other guy on here who I think probably looks a little bit like this photo, but only because he's bald and he has one of those, I'm a rugged man beards.
Yeah.
He probably
also,
doesn't look
I'm
that
sure.
thin. Yeah.
I'm sure it's been edited as well.
Yeah. it's fascinating how much these people don't want to control their lives. They'll just
Right. Exactly that. I will say, as somebody who recently has been going through a lot of shit trying to better themselves and having it be a really goddamn hard process, but, fulfilling and validating, good to be a person engaging in community and society, it's so disappointing to see people who could be in a similar spot psychologically, and rather than try and do something about it, just so completely give up.
it really is a form of giving up, because like I'm looking at all these fucking photos, all these videos, and there's no way these fuckers look like these 8 out of 10 guys. If you
I'm gonna
are
coin it. Yeah, go ahead.
If you are 8 out of 10, like these guys are portraying themselves to be, you would not need these. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't go that far.
Okay, you're fair. I exaggerate for funsies, but you're right.
So, let me cite my work here. Clavicular. Massive piece of shit. Doesn't look as attractive as he thinks he does. Is still a conventionally attractive guy. Like, he's easily an 8 out of 10. But he's such a massive piece of shit and a misogynist. Of course he doesn't have a girlfriend or a wife. What I was going to say, though, is that I'm going to make a term here that I think is how I perceive this. It's social suicide.
Good term.
They're completely killing the social part of humanity. I don't know how you come back from this. Like, legitimately, therapy and rehab probably is the only way that you can.
So, one moment, my dear Kyril. So you remember that guy who I posted a little earlier, the one with the goth mommy GF?
Mm-hmm.
I found his photo.
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah. There's like some body dysphoria shit related to this.
Isn't there? Shout out. Who was this? Alex Avila put out a great video this year, exactly talking about that. How they call it looks maxing and the rise of the male to male transsexual. It is exactly that. These people who are unhappy with themselves from the perspective of masculinity, and their response to that is to become a different person that is more conforming to the conceptions of what masculinity means in super unhealthy ways.
Nobody's born like a supermodel, unless you're me.
Usually, no.
But that being said, you should make an effort at least to build the body you want.
Yeah.
It is like
a lot of work. And it is. Yeah. It's a lot of work and it's hard work, but it is worthwhile work.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out as well to Jamie Page's song Machine Love. Excellent song on its own right, but is such a great microcosm of this concept that I'm trying to convey here of the opposite way of this, of rather than the human forcing themselves to fall in love with the machine trying to understand what it is to be human and explore love in that way. And it pisses me off that concept has been so twisted and mixed up in these people.
More people should run. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, go. You don't even have to run. Go walk.
Yeah.
Let's get to some less sad. Yeah, less sad news. The smoke is fucked up.
Oh my god. It pissed me off that 60-degree Michigan is peak Michigan, right? I'm not opening my goddamn windows because I don't want to smell that fucking plastic hazardous shit in my house.
It sucks so much.
It is so bad. I'm so pissed. I can't go outside and run in this beautiful temperature because of the smoke.
Mm-hmm.
That being said,
Yeah. No, go. Yeah.
Shout out to Canada. I hope you all are doing well.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, it's been so. I'll be honest, they're not doing great.
No, they're not.
I've seen a couple of reports talking to First Nations people who live in these regions that are being devastated right now, and the amount of history and culture that I'm sure they will do incredible to try and rebuild, but for now, that is being completely devastated and lost is innumerable. It's so fucking tragic. I feel so awful for them because they didn't want to ask for this shit. They're not the ones making global warming. And there's a degree of it where there's an amount of inevitability in wildfires, right?
Yeah.
But the scale and the frequency is obviously increasing. And it's not their fault, if it's anyone's fault, right?
I can name like
one, to be clear, if it's any one person's fault. There's absolutely collectives of people who are deeply responsible and should be, things I can't say.
logged.
That, but more, yes.
Yeah. No. I like the idea of bringing back like medieval torture terms for like as a cartoony way to fuck with people.
Yeah, I am not a person who is fond of the death penalty at all.
Nope.
In fact, I'm quite proud that our state constitutionally outlaws it. But I get where some of the times the people who are in favor of it come from when I see executives of oil companies and the like that have perpetuated so much damage and so much harm, and as a result of that, so much human suffering.
Oh yeah.
That they are responsible for. Kind of get it. So yeah, getting fucked up with smoke. Chicago and Detroit had the worst air quality in the country for in the world for a brief period. I don't think that's still quite the case. Things have gotten a little bit better. I was at a Pride Festival yesterday, and we got extremely lucky with the weather. It was beautiful for about 6 hours. So I'm going to give a shout out to God for that one, for getting rid of the smoke for Pride, because that was pretty great.
Oh, that's so funny.
We had a Pride parade the day before, and there's a ton of people because there's a massive intersection with queer communities and disabled communities, right?
Yeah.
There's so many people that couldn't attend because they couldn't risk being out in the smoke and having an asthma attack or just not being able to breathe for other reasons. So having a day that the weather cleared up, everybody could get out and enjoy themselves. It was hot, but you could breathe, and it was a lot of fun. So that was nice.
Hell yeah.
I'm curious, what was the worst air quality index number that you saw in your area?
Do you really want to fucking know?
Because I know what the number that I saw was for mine. I'm curious.
452.
Oh, I got you beat.
You got me beat?
590.
Fuck you. How are you alive?
I legitimately was getting headaches on Thursday. I had a couple of errands to run, so I was out doing those errands for like 2-3 hours in the city, and just going between my car to a business, back to my car 4 times, I was legitimately feeling nauseous.
I'm sorry, that's shit.
It was really bad. So, yeah. Speaking of feeling nauseous, we know where the cyclospora source has come from.
Taylor Farms.
Taylor Farms. Apparently not just Taylor Farms, but they are by far the most guilty as we understand it so far. Yeah. Taylor Farms supplied lettuce to Taco Bell. Taco Bell, prior to Taylor Farms even acknowledging responsibility for this, took the correct decision and accurately identified where in their supply chain this bad product was coming from and cut it out before Taylor Farms even acknowledged that they had any responsibility. from what I understand, the FDA has both confirmed that Taylor Farms is involved and then also confirmed that a completely separate batch than what Taylor Farms admitted to is also contaminated by cyclospora. They've found things other than lettuce, things like, what did I heard, parsley, cilantro in the region, also infected by this, going obviously very wide in these spread ingredients. And there's been at least one other farm that has also positively tested for this. So it's bad.
But America's great again. That's the important part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating that the federal government is still describing 1,600 illnesses when been over 5,000 in Michigan already.
Do we have anything else before we get to the movie of all time?
I think that is it. So let's run through the movies because there's a couple to go through real quick first.
Yeah.
We missed a few weeks, so we'll run through a couple of those. Evil Dead Burn. I assume it's in the Evil Dead series. I don't actually know. It is a horror mystery thriller. Unleashes the franchises, yes. Most savage and terrifying ride to date. After the loss of her husband, a woman seeks solace with her in-laws in their secluded family home. As one by one they are transformed into deadites, turning the gathering into a family reunion from hell, she comes to discover that the vows she took in life live on, even in death. 71% from critics, 77% from audiences. We also have Young Washington. Before he was the father of a nation, he was a soldier fighting to survive. A single misstep thrusts young George Washington into the center of a global conflict, testing the untold story of young Washington. 60% from critics, 92% from audiences. This one's been pretty well
shit on?
Not botted. Botted's not quite the right word. It's not a great movie. Like, this is, I think, a really good example of the truth being kind of in the middle, where it's a shitty movie, but it's not that shitty. It's just conventionally bad, and it's getting an extreme reaction because people are trying to use it as a political thing, and that's lame because it's just mid.
My fucking land company that does like my apartment, as like a thank you for renting with us, they brought tickets for everybody at the fucking complex to go see Young Washington.
That is so funny.
I did not. We did not use them. We did not use them.
Good for you.
I'm sure that they have investments in it. Whoever did this movie. However, I'm not helping them buy tickets. Fuck you.
Yeah. Last one we had before the big one. we never talked about the live action Moana.
Do we have to though? What do you?
It is live action Moana. It has The Rock as Maui, and he only knows how to do The Rock, so the performance is kind of terrible. 31% from critics, 89% from audiences. I think we're well into the point, and this is not exactly like an unknown effect, but I feel like we need to take the Marvel effect for review scores and get a general Disney effect where you just like can't look at the audience score because it's so skewed by super fans.
I just want to know, like, why do bad things happen to good people?
Because the live action Lion King movie made literally $1 billion.
Why do bad things happen to good people, Kyril? I did not deserve this.
No, I agree.
Disney used to mean something.
Let's actually talk about the movie for this week.
The movie of all time?
Apparently, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Odysseus, king of Ithaca, embarks on a perilous journey to return home after the Trojan War. Crossing the Mediterranean Sea with his fellow soldiers, they soon find themselves battling not only the elements, but an array of deadly obstacles and mythical creatures along the way. Is it safe to say that Homer is just the GOAT?
I don't understand. This is a movie about Odysseus. Why the fuck is it called The Odyssey?
I do find it fascinating that, like, from everything that I understand, so correct me if I'm wrong,
yeah,
everything in this is just from the Odyssey, the epic.
Okay.
There's not anything added. Maybe there's like some like narrative stuff added to make it read better as a film, but like content-wise, it's like pretty damn close, isn't it?
Okay, so spoiler alert, I saw this last night, and surprise, fucking surprise, it's fucking good.
Oh yeah, 95% critics, 97% audiences. It's really fucking good. From what I've understood, I've heard people describe it as like, this is the reason you go to the theater. Good.
You know what? I will say this. I don't think I would ever like the movie as much as I do if I didn't see it in a fucking theater. It's like, the theater itself. Actually, I'm going to describe it using some literature that I read. Because I'm a smart boy. I read these interviews with Francis Bacon, the painter, and he would talk about how he had to choose like paint based off what kind of glass he thinks the painting would be like held in. Because like obviously, yeah, because you wouldn't think about this, but like when you have like certain paints,
go ahead.
You worry about like the glare of like light against the glass, how they will affect the colors. And to some extent, that same auteur theory, like idea and like consideration was clearly present in this film because, oh my God, did this feel like it was meant for a theater?
I actually completely understand that. I've seen almost that exact sentiment shared when it comes to the people who make art for trading card games, where they know it's going to be contextualized in the literal frame of a trading card and everything that comes with, and they have to change the way that they do composition to account for that.
Yeah, no, like ever since I read that interview, like it makes me rethink about how art is always under the threat of context itself, right? Self-promo here, when I did fucking Saturated Wonderland, I made that album like super distorted and lo-fi to some extent because I didn't know who would be listening to it on what speakers. So even if you have like these good quality speakers, I kind of wanted to sound like it wasn't taking advantage of that because fuck you, I want you to have the same experience as like someone with like bad headphones. So like all this to say, man, this is a good theater movie. Fuck. In terms of like, I heard they took away some stuff, right? I don't know the Odyssey as well as yeah.
It's such a massive book.
Yeah. Well, like, okay, forgive me for being a little actually, but like it started like as an oral story, right? And then what we know now is just a collection of like those oral retellings in like a translation. So
I think so. I would actually let's check. I have a Wikipedia page open here. Do we have the full thing? I think we have parts of like original-ish manuscripts dating to like BC times, not quite Greek or Roman times, but it's not a recent thing that people have been trying to permanently capture what is the content of the Odyssey. But there is like 500 years where that was the case.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the beauty of this, because I was thinking about the Odyssey as I'm watching it, right? Because like I want to engage with the art. This is another retelling in one of the oldest stories on Earth, right? Like one of the few things that like fights this in terms of age is like the fucking Bible. And we all know the fucking Bible is also, you know, characterized by different retellings, oral retellings, added effect.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when I went into this, I'm like watching this and I'm not caring so much if there's changes because like I've kind of realized when you tell a story orally, you're basically reciting it from memory, but memory isn't like fucking distinct or precise. It's always about emotion. So when you tell the story, you should go for the emotion of it. What I cared most about this film was looking for emotion. And you know what? It's there. It's absolutely there. And that the stuff that they cut out, I definitely feel like was in service to the emotional story of this film.
Yes.
That being said, I probably over intellectualized this a lot more than most people, but holy shit, once you start thinking about this hard, you can start tearing apart like the story faster, and then you can get to the real themes and meat. Like there's we all know that how the Odyssey ends, right? Everybody's been through fucking 7th grade English.
I doubt it, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So everybody knows in the Odyssey, Odysseus comes back dressed as a beggar in disguise to kill all the suitors who are after his wife, right?
Yeah. Yes.
They have a scene where Odysseus speaks to his wife before like the suitor fight happens, in which he basically tells the whole moral of the story. And you know what? The whole time I was pumping my arms in the front row of the theater, being really fucking inconsiderate to people behind me, because I was thinking all that shit the whole time. And I'm like, oh, Nolan, I got you.
Is this the first successful adaptation of a poem to film?
Well, okay, let's define success, right?
Sure. That's fair. That is definitely fair, because this is hardly the first adaptation of the Odyssey.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that it has immediately become the most prominent adaptation.
It's amazing how much this became a cultural, entered the cultural like hive mind overnight.
I'm glad that we have directors like Nolan who do still carry such massive zeitgeist with them.
Yes. I'm gonna level with you. I'm not a big Nolan fan. However, I love this movie. This movie I think is my favorite Nolan film. I think it really shows Nolan as Nolan's fucking interesting, isn't he? Because like I don't really care for his original stuff as much. Like,
yeah,
but I think he's very good at adapting things. I think he understands things at their core. I'm not talking just about Batman. Like, we have one amazing Batman
but
film.
like,
yeah,
Dunkirk, Oppenheimer.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm getting at.
You can all consider those to be adaptations in a way.
Yes, exactly. And I think this movie is a natural extension of everything he's learned from adapting like Oppenheimer to life, going after like the modern mythology of Batman. That's like, I think it really funnels down a lot of those things that he's had practice with. And it really shows a lot of growth for him.
Fascinating. I actually disagree. I'm
really?
Surprised.
About what?
That his original work is somehow not his best work.
Okay, I'm a level with you.
The Prestige is just... Maybe I just saw it the right way at the right time, but holy shit.
I'm a level with you, right?
Oh, sorry. It's based on a novel, so we're good.
No, but I say that only because I'm not as familiar with his original work as I am with like the adaptations. That being said, you know, I think that I have a very limited scope in that sense. So please don't take my word as law.
No, you're fair. You're fair on that. Yeah, I didn't realize that The Prestige was technically an adaptation. That is my favorite Nolan film.
That's not with David Bowie, right?
No, it has Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale.
Okay.
Michael Caine, Scarlett Johansson, Andy Serkis. Oh, it does have David Bowie. Oh, he plays fucking
Nikola Tesla. I fucking knew it.
Yeah. Yes, that is the Bowie one.
Okay, I can see.
He does a
why
really
you
good
love
job
that.
as Tesla.
Fucking David Bowie does
Full
good at
marks to
everything.
him. He fucking nailed it. But I adore that movie. It does such something that I love to have as a treat in my media are stories that leave you deeply unsatisfied at the end. with so many questions that you know are never going to be answered. And The Prestige is that that concept incarnate, where you get to the end of the final act and you end up walking away from it with such an unsettling feeling when you finally realize what has been happening over the last act of this movie, once it's finally completely revealed, because it's heavily hinted at. But once you realize the scale of it, just fucking beautiful. The way that Nolan captured that is remarkable.
Mm-hmm. Fair and balanced. I will say, there's one thing that kind of pissed me off in this movie, and I think if Nolan chose it, it would have been a perfect film.
Okay.
I think this movie should have swayed a little bit from the original story and let Odysseus die at the end.
Interesting.
I won't say why, but I think it would have been a very, there's like an ending note that he chooses to go with. And I think it's a good ending note. I think it would have impacted a little bit harder. Because I don't want to spoil too much about this film. Because, you know,
we all know the story. I would like to. So
we all know the story of the Odyssey.
I know the Odyssey, but yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting idea.
But we don't know, like, Nolan's take on, like, what it is. It's like, you know what movie it kind of reminded me of, right? You're going to think this is really fucking weird. I got vibes. And I'm saying this as someone who hasn't fully seen all these movies, but it did give me a little bit of Lord of the Rings.
I think that's fair, because the Lord of the Rings is so informed by the classic epics that came before it.
Yeah. No, I feel
like
that
it's not to be mean, but it's like as fundamental as the guy who's only seen Boss Baby getting a lot of Boss Baby vibes.
Yeah.
Like, lovingly and fairly, I think, because the Odyssey is not an easy thing for most people to read. So I think that that's a very fair thing to make those connections, because they're totally real.
Yeah. Because, like, I'm reading Lord of the Rings right now, and what I find interesting, because I haven't seen the movies fully. I know things in the movie. Really? I've seen clips. Yes. And
wow,
when you live, because I'm a kid of the 2000s, right?
Yeah.
And the Lord of the Rings were everywhere.
It was the height of cinema for each of the releases.
Yeah. So when you're engaging with the original work, but you know the cultural shadow of the adaptation, it kind of creates this dissonance. And, like, obviously I know the Odyssey. I read snippets of the Odyssey in part of, like, our English class. Obviously we had to skip some parts because they didn't want us spending it all year.
Yeah, it's massive. You easily, and I'm sure that there are, like, entire degrees based on just interpreting the Odyssey.
Yeah. So, like, and don't even get me started on the fucking Iliad. So going into this, I felt that same dissonance in, like, that you kind of, because I'll start this off. I think the Lord of the Rings book, the actual novel written by Tolkien, has been appropriated and turned into something else by the movies. And, like, when I watch Nolan's movie, I feel it's appropriated and turned to something else, and that's not a bad thing. I think that's a really valid thing, because, like, that's how storytelling works. You have to take what came from before you and add on to it. And as I'm sitting there, that same dissonance, you know, it really does kind of drive home, like, who Nolan is as a storyteller versus, and that's not just Nolan, it's the actors too. It's the actors, it's the camera crew, it's everybody, and how they bring a different voice to all this versus Homer himself, you know? And, like, Homer, again, it may not be the full author because oral tradition, and that
absolutely.
The Odyssey is, like, a whole bunch of chapters. You don't know what was in the original Odyssey. Like, stuff could be added in there. And, like, these storylines are refined through every teller. And this is just more to that. And in the same way, I felt like these ideas of the monomyth and that we're retelling, it's like a larger scale version of what we did with Lord of the Rings. Because like there's
It's
way
a
more
fascinating concept.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
I've been really into reading like I said this maybe a little bit earlier, like Judaism, Abrahamic religions. I've been trying to like get more into like mythology and religions and how things become this and that, and like how storytelling works on a very primal level. So like this was so meaty, and like that's why I enjoyed about it. Like this is why it's my favorite Nolan film, because it like inspired all these conversations in my head. And you know what, 3 hours worth of movie, you can think a lot about this while enjoying a pretty kick-ass cinematography.
Do you think the Iliad gets made now by Nolan?
I kind of hope not.
I think it would be really fascinating because the Iliad and the Odyssey are both culturally so important. I would love for people to have a version of both of them that is going to be sanitized and shortened by a lot, of course, but that properly contextualizes their lack of relation to one another.
Yeah, that is something kind of interesting in this movie. And I'm trying to be vague about it, right? Because, like, so for those of you who do not know, the Iliad is the ending of, like, the Trojan War, right?
Kind of.
Yeah.
It is widely colloquially understood as that, yes.
Yeah. So, in a weird way, the Odyssey exists separate from the Iliad, but is a byproduct of the Iliad.
Yes.
It's like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, going back to Tolkien.
That's a really good example.
Yeah. So, I don't want to go too far into this, but they do kind of talk about the Iliad in this movie.
Okay.
And that's
fine.
why
We can leave it at that if you want.
Yeah. So, like, full disclosure, I don't know the Iliad as well as the Odyssey, so I don't know, like, too much about it. But I think there is a lot of interesting commentaries from what they choose to pull into the Odyssey from the Iliad.
That's fair.
Yeah.
For reference, the Iliad is 15,693 lines.
Only 16,000, you say?
Of poetry, basically.
Of poetry.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Right? Because it needs to be a poem to be able to be such a surviving oral tradition.
Yeah.
That is what makes it a teller able to remember and recall it.
I think there's something kind of cool about poetry. And it's scary at the same time that poetry is so able to be adapted versus prose. Prose, you have to be more concise, but again, poetry is that storytelling of like emotions, right? So that's where you get like those easier lines where brevity comes from, like the conciseness of the emotions, right? So what I fear is like situations where this goes to like a larger cultural context right here, but the literacy crisis in America. It's so interesting that this movie's blowing up. It's a poem, and I don't feel like we have the best resources to like digest poetry right now. But here we are, like enjoying the adaptation of it with thunderous applause. My theater clapped at the end of this movie, by the way.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. I remember there's like this one dude in like the back row, and he's like, you know what? That was pretty fucking cool. Shout out to that guy, by the way.
Very, very cool. That's a good reaction. I appreciate that. I'm glad that I was worried that because the Odyssey is so fundamental, but also so challenging, that parts of that would translate. And I'm really glad that that has proven to not be the case.
I'm curious, what do you think's the most challenging part about the Odyssey?
The scale.
The scale.
Like,
Okay.
like
yeah.
the movie is still almost 3 hours, right?
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of wish there was an intermission, but that's only because I don't like sitting for so long.
Yeah.
By the end of this movie, like the fight with the suitors, I was squirming in my seat because I needed to move.
Oh yeah. It's easy to take for granted that just because it's part of the same thing, you might not remember the key parts of what you need to remember from the first act when you're in the third act because it was 2.5 hours ago. So being able to navigate that is a legitimately difficult thing. We don't have 3-hour movies not just because they're physically demanding, but because it's narratively really hard to execute.
Yeah.
So
I think this movie,
Nolan.
yeah. I think you could realistically cut 20 minutes out of this movie. I don't want them to.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was also this feeling I had where they kind of, I don't want to say they dumbed it down, but they tried to make it very accessible because they replayed some scenes to kind of show like that we are going back to this moment.
That is cheating a little bit, but I can respect it. There's a little bit of a necessity in that.
Yeah, like it's not even like a big offender. Yeah.
Can I give you an example? That's the film equivalent of the yellow paint in a video game.
Yes.
Like, I can see this. It's not for me. I appreciate that it's there for the people who it is for.
Yes. You know, there's something very interesting about this I did want to address. I know I alluded earlier that they put some of the Iliad in here. Did you know there was a small sequel to the Odyssey in like the Homer poetry universe, right?
I did not.
Yeah, they allude to that a little bit as well. From my understanding, is we don't have the full poem, but they do allude to the sequel in a very small way. Yeah. So I do applaud Nolan for going out of his way to like contextualize this in a larger, this is a massive story, but it's part of like literally a fucking, I don't even know what to call the full like story of Troy, you know?
It is where we get the term epic in modern language. Like,
You're
it's
right.
that. It's so fundamental to so much that we really take for granted.
It really is, because like the one thing I want to compare it to in like a modern context, and like this is not Lord of the Rings per se, but like something that's going on today, it's like One Piece. And that
absolutely.
You have these massive epics, and they like you can't read One Piece and not fully like grasp that there is some traces of the Odyssey, even though this is like from another side of the whole goddamn planet. It's so fundamental how they did that storyline that you can't do anything outside of that. Like, I'm sure you probably could, but it wouldn't read as clean.
I'm curious because, like, you know the hero's journey, right? Conceptually.
Oh, yeah. The fucking, like, call to adventure, the fucking, I don't want to go on adventure, the mentor, all that bullshit, Joseph Campbell, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. It's a relatively modern concept in how it has been given a terminology for it, but it's existed for thousands of years, right? It is the way that we as humans understand how to write and tell a story about an adventure, about these kinds of subjects. So I really think that having something like the Odyssey that in like linear space is so close to when we first nailed how do you tell stories in this way. It's important because of that.
Oh, yeah. It's so cool. And, you know, again, the whole Abrahamic religion thing, I was looking at the Odyssey and, like, kind of comparing it to something like the Bible, which, like, does, like, a grand epic in some degrees for, like, the story of Israel, right? Like, the story of Exodus, Numbers, all the way, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like they're so similar in that way, but you know, technically the Odyssey came first, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. I believe because it's hard to say, right? Because the Bible is very murky, oral tradition kind of stuff. We know that the Iliad and the Odyssey were written around the 8th and 7th centuries BC. I think there's an element to the Bible once you start to involve the Old Testament, where obviously the New Testament is the Jesus stuff. So that's after BC because it was literally the sea. But what precedes it happens over such a long time span that it probably falls on both sides as that oral history was delivered and expanded.
Yeah. You know, I'll phrase this differently. Some of the Old Testament stories probably did come first, you know, because again, murky. But like the editing, the collaboration of like putting it all together into like one tome, I feel definitely could have been influenced by just this.
I can see that.
Yeah. I think this is a very Western telling of the Odyssey as well. And I'm not just going off that because...
absolutely, yes.
Yeah. I'm not just going off that.
It's Christopher Nolan, right?
Yeah. I'm not... Okay. One thing I do want to complain about. I think people get a little stupid when they talk about like the actors in this and they're not being historically accurate. Fuck off.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Who fucking cares? That's like complete chud shit. If you can't get over yourself to understand that actors who are different races can portray people of races that are not their own, just fuck off.
You know, it made me realize
it came with your object permanence, right?
Yeah. It made me realize Spartan armor is fucking cool because anybody can look cool in that shit.
Well, yeah, that's like the kind of thing, right? Is so much is derived from that.
Yeah.
It all, anyways, it's very cool.
It is
very,
cool.
very cool.
Yeah. Fucking hell, it's like the coolest shit, Spartan armor. I want to wear some like around the house. I'm not even fucking Greek.
Just go get a helmet, right?
Yeah. That being said,
I'm sorry, Odyssey good?
Odyssey is like a 9 out of 10 for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. It's going to be my movie of the year at this rate.
God, it's going to be a good year because we still have Dune 3 is this year, isn't it? Or is that next?
I don't know.
Let me check. It's dated 2026, December, Christmas. So
oh yeah, it's going against Doomsday.
That's going to be a hell of a fight come February and March.
Isn't it though?
Yeah. And Pattinson is in both. What a fucking king. God, I love him.
Pattinson's really good in this movie.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm a big fan of his work.
I will say this, right? So. I would have never guessed in a million years Tom Holland and Robert Pattinson have so much chemistry together.
Really? I would have not guessed that either.
Yeah, it's so weird.
But I think that is all I have for today. And any last Odyssey thoughts?
I can't wait for you to see this so I can go full non-spoilers on this show because I think it's going to be like we'll probably have to do like one of our usual Marvel-esque talks about this film.
Yeah, that's fair. I hope I will have a chance next weekend, but it doesn't look great yet. Worst case, week after next.
Cool. Well, I'm the infamous Orion, and I'm going to go on a long, perilous journey to go get milk.
And
might fight a Cyclops.
And I'm also a Schmo.
This has been the Two Schmoes Show.